G'day to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I'm down here at Barangaroo and it's lunchtime on this beautiful Friday. It's summer, it's warm, got a little bit of cloud cover, which I prefer actually, because it's kept it a little bit cooler today than what it normally would be this time of year. I've got a little friend here who's joined me as well. So what I'd like to do today is just continue along the tradition of Jim's 5am Club and to deliver yet another book summary. Who would have ever thought that I could be standing here and proudly saying that I've delivered over 1,450 vlogs on my YouTube channel, and I'm in a position now where I can say that my YouTube channel has a greater variety and a greater volume than any other channel that you'd care to log on to and follow. So what I'm saying here is I, through my YouTube channel, can probably teach you more about more things, the things that matter most, than anybody else in your network or anybody else that you'd ever come across in your lifetime. I've invested a huge amount of effort and time to be able to do the research that is necessary to get to the point where I can have a library of material, an inventory of life hacks that can be used as a source, as a resource for anybody to be able to make the most of the available OPE and to use it to their heart's content. So what I'll do is I'll go on a walk and talk. As you can see, it's a busier time of day with boats coming and going, and what I've got today is another book summary. I have a book summary today that I'd like to cover, and the book summary is entitled A New Earth by an edgy, forward-thinking author by the name of Eckhart Tolle. And this book here is quite interesting actually. It's got a few things here, a few profound learnings that I found very, very useful. So the book here kicks off with a profound statement, something that is worth thinking about quite deeply actually. And he says that you can't fight against ego. And expect to ever win. Once again, a powerful statement, and he says that fighting against ego is like fighting against the darkness. You can never see where your challenges or where your next challenges are coming from, because ego can be a damaging evil in a person's life. And the author goes on to say, and I find this interesting as well, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, that many people are caught in a loop, in a never-ending loop in their lives, which is compulsive, repetitive, and sadly, very, very pointless. And he says that it's compulsive, repetitive, and pointless. And how many people come across in our lives who just continue to loop and cycle through the same sort of issues over and over again, unable to get over them, unable to accept them, unable to leverage them or to do anything with them. And from this author's perspective is that this weakness that we have, or this failing that we have, can be quite damaging, because if you don't master your thought processes, and if you can't identify the negative loops that drain us all the time, then what this author is saying is you become victim and you become a prisoner of those thoughts and of those repetitive, compulsive, pointless discussions and conversations and stories that you keep on regurgitating and ruminating over. So the author goes on to say that there is an unconscious compulsion to enhance one's identity through association with objects. The older we get, I guess, the more we get to understand those things, that people, through ego, want to associate with objects, with things, with trinkets, hoping that those objects can define who they want to be, and to, I guess, feather and to stroke their egos. So once again, you can spend your whole life accumulating trinkets, accumulating possessions, accumulating things, but it won't necessarily change who you are. It won't necessarily redefine who you are, because sooner or later your character will come to the surface and people will see through the facade of materialism and know, where your weaknesses lie.
So have you put your name on the list?
So wanting to grow and wanting to improve can sometimes be seen as being dysfunctional. If you're not happy with who you are at this point in time and you're wanting to change and become somebody else, is in itself a problem and an issue, because at the end of the day, we're all work in progress at any point in time, and we've got to accept ourselves as being perfect at this point in time in our lives, and to enjoy this moment, to be present in this moment, and to make the most with what we've got. Because if you wait for the time when everything is going to be perfect and everything is going to be complete, then that time, sadly, will never come. You'll always be chasing that moment. So this author here says our egos can be quite damaging, because what our ego is constantly telling us is that it's all about us, and it's all about doing the most we can to enhance what we look at or what we look like, to attract people who will like that fake image that we're portraying. So the call to action from this author, from this wonderful author, is to let go, because letting go is where the power is, whereas the accumulation and the holding on is the absolute weakness. But people have got it asked about. They think that accumulating and growing and developing is where the strength is. But this author here is saying in this book, A New Earth, that we need to step back. We need to release our ego and to stop finding or stop trying to find ourselves in other things, in other people, in other trinkets, in other purchases. We're not defined by the clothes we wear. We're not defined by the watch we have. We're not defined by the car or cars that we drive. We're not defined by our postcode. Because at the end of the day, it's not where you live, but how you live and who you live with. So what the author here is saying is that we need to be mature. we need to have this adult-only discussion and conversation, and to understand that we can't continue a journey of trying to find ourselves where we're looking to find ourselves in other things. And the author here makes a good point, and he says that if you get to a point where you don't react to certain things, then non-reaction is a form of forgiveness. And forgiveness is a form of power. And forgiveness and power are all things that come and are sourced in love. And the next point that he makes, I find also absolutely profound, where he says that ego, a person's ego and awareness cannot coexist in the same place or in the same person. And the next point is the absolute cracker, the pearler from this book. And I could do a whole vlog on just this one sentence, this one OPE, this one other person's experience, where he says that whatever you fight in life, you strengthen. So I can sit back and just think about this for hours, and it's really, really powerful, because when you fight something or when you fight someone, what you're actually doing is you are enabling them to have greater strength and greater power over you, and they're also building skills and they're building capacity. If you're a person of stature or a person who is comfortable in themselves, then the last thing you want to be doing is to be fighting with other people, because by fighting other people, you're actually giving them or inviting them to drain you of your energy, of your skill, of your strength. So fighting anything, fighting anybody should be the last thing we should be doing. When I did martial arts a number of years ago, the first thing I learnt is the last thing you want to do is to fight people, because the fights you never have are the fights you're always going to be a victor in. By all means, we need to, pick our fights, but pick a fight with somebody who is worth fighting. What the author here is saying is that you can be wasting your time fighting people who are just going to drain you of your energy, of your peace, of your harmony. So you're better off just ignoring them and letting them just disappear into the background, rather than engaging them and them, as I say, drain your energy, but also take your peace away. Because when you fight, what you're doing is you're giving them the key to the prison, the key to your prison that will keep you locked up and caught up and bitter and disempowered. The next point that the author makes in this wonderful book is that suffering has a noble purpose, because what it does is it enables the evolution of the conscious, and at the same time it allows us to burn up and to take away or to eliminate our egos. What the author suggests here is that what we should consider doing is to say yes to suffering, because by embracing suffering, by leveraging and using the suffering that we have in our lives, and we're all going to suffer at some point in time, it's just a way, we're all programmed, I guess. We need to suffer in order to get through life. But the author says here that, if you say yes to suffering, then and only then you can transcend it. You can get through it. You can leverage it, use it. The author goes on to say that to love is to recognize yourself in others, in another person, and it's quite interesting just to hear that. To find yourself in other people, to find God in other people, and your personality is conditioned by our past. We're all conditioned by our experiences. We're all going to have a different past. We're all going to have a different present. I am here, you are there, and we're all going to have a different future. But this author reminds us that we're all going to be conditioned by those experiences. But if we're not careful, they can also become our prisons. So we need to be mindful. We need to be discerning with the messages, with the interpretation, with the heuristics that we place on our experiences, and to, I guess, put a positive spin where possible on things that will enable us to be better, stronger, and more capable, and to be careful not to allow certain conditions in our life, certain things that have happened, to become the negative reminders which hold us back. Because once again, this author says that whatever you identify with will turn into ego. Now that is really, really powerful. Whatever you identify with, it will turn into your ego. So we're going to be careful with what we identify with. And in a world where we're surrounded by bullshit, identity politics, it's important to understand that once somebody latches onto something and they identify with it and they become fanatical about it, what it becomes then, it becomes their ego, and it becomes so entrenched and so important to them that they will become irrational and fight people and fight for preserving the status quo of that identity and that ego to their detriment. Now we see it all the time. People get carried away with causes, and it's all because they've been coerced or they've been tricked into identifying with a particular attribute, with a particular community, with a particular group, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that all they think about and all they talk about is that identity that either they've inherited or that they've created in their own mind's eye. So the author goes on to say that it's important to try and make our present moment our friend and to let go of certain identities, because at the end of the day you're not defined by these identities. These identities are a figment of your imagination. People identify with certain things, with certain groups, with certain agendas and political movements. But at the end of the day, you're not that identity. You're you're far from it. But the author here says we need to let go of those identities to make room and create a vacuum to be able to attract other things into our life. And the trick is, and we hear this time and time again, that less is more. If you identify with certain things and you put all your energy, all your focus into it, what you're actually doing is you're creating a barrier which makes it harder for people to connect with you, the general population, Now, why would you want to identify with a minority if it, makes you opposite a majority? Unless, of course, that minority is something which you really value. So the last few points from this book is that at the end of the day, we're all more than what we think we are, and we shouldn't limit ourselves by a particular minority, and we need to continue to identify ourselves with I guess a broader variety of things and images. And the last point that the author makes here is that at the end of the day, only the present can make us free, because our past is no longer part of us. We can't live in our past. And as a number of authors say, that if you spend too much time living in your past, then you'll probably be depressed. And at the opposite end of the spectrum, if you spend far too much time in the future, then chances are that you're going to be anxious and you're going to suffer from anxiety. Whereas the best place, the most productive place you can be, is in this eternal now. It's right here, right now, making the most of what is happening, because all we really do have is this now, this nowness. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. It has been a tricky topic, but a topic which I found quite powerful when I was reading the book summary and going through these book summaries. And the most powerful lesson that I take from this book is the lesson that we shouldn't be fighting with anything in our life, because the more you fight, the more you're going to give your strength to the thing that you're fighting. So let's step back, let's submit to God's will, I guess is one way of putting it, and to know that we're not defined by our trinkets, we're not defined by the materiality that surrounds us. You can only have one boat, and you can only be in one place at one time, and to think that you're being defined by your assets, by your postcode, and by all those things that you own, you're going to be disappointed one day, and you're going to be feeling pretty empty and pretty lonely, I guess, at that as well. Anyway, take care, wishing you all the best, and I look forward to coming to you again from another place with another message of empowerment, where we can go through another book summary, where we can examine OPE, other people's experiences, and pick out a point or two and see how we can incorporate those life hacks into our inventory of skills, and to see how it can improve our life and make things better, not only for us, but for those around us. Anyway, as I said, please spread the message of Jim's 5am Club, my YouTube channel, where I reckon I am probably the most prolific vlogger of personal development material throughout the world, with 1,451 vlogs and hours of material. As I say to my granddaughter, if you listen to one of my vlogs a week, it would take you over 30 years to get through this library of material that I've accumulated, and hopefully there'll be some material there that can be of use to not only my family, but to your family and friends as well. So spread the word, and let people know that this blog, this YouTube channel is available at Jim's 5am Club, and I look forward to coming to you again and sharing my journey with you, and hopefully we can continue to live, learn and pass it on. Yassas and bye for now.